Do you even remember, like, the release process of, like, the first record?
The EP?
Yeah,
Not EP?
I don't really remember that
it's
at
kind
all.
of foggy. But it was exciting.
It was quick. I know that. It wasn't the same as, like, I don't know. I think every release has come together about as naturally as it could have.
There were times when I had to, you know, when I'd record an idea on the E-Kit, send it to Jesse. He would work on an idea, whether it's like synth or bass or something like that, or there were other times where we were in the room together and things came together naturally.
Bouncing ideas, trying to make sure that everything fits, not overstepping, and this being my first album, listening to Stellar and being a fan before actually being in the band, I had an idea what the sound was like, so there's a kind of a clear-cut idea of, what doesn't need to be done for the guitar, what kind of direction to stay in, but that was already kind of my natural writing style and playing style anyways.
I would say these songs are definitely different, but they're still very much, there may be a further realization of our sound, but they're still very much tied into the sound that we were starting to realize on Ways We Haunt. One thing that's always stayed the same since I've been in the band in the last 6.5 years in our writing process is that the vocals always come last. The drums and bass will usually start an idea followed by the guitar, and it's not until we have a completely realized structure that Ben will come in and interpret it vocally, and he'll usually sit with it for days, weeks at a time, and spend a lot of time with it on his own or with Jesse, and then the song will be we'll consider it a finished song.
Rock has been my primary genre, my main focus. I like most genres. I try to be as round as possible as a guitarist and as a musician. So I've dabbled in other things. I have some background with jazz theory and things like that it's always nice to apply without, as long as it doesn't become too superfluous, or it's not like without interjecting something intentionally. If it feels like here's a cool spot for a nice idea, something to kind of take a little bit of a left turn, it's always fun to do that, as long as it still serves the song and doesn't throw anybody else in the band off if everybody else likes it and thinks it's a good idea. So bringing in those little elements into a kind of a traditional rock upbringing and style is kind of how I've fit in with my writing so far.
Going through the motions.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what it is. For anything, you just put in the time.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to say just like a list of what you've learned. I don't think there's any way that we could even really quantify that. There's so many things that you learn from playing music over the years, and you kind of, I don't know, at least for me, you don't realize a lot of the stuff that you pick up as you just keep going and you just keep going and you just keep going, and you look up one day and then, like you said, you put in 100 hours or 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours or whatever, and things are a little bit different, but in the same breath, a lot of the time it feels like it's the same too. You kind of just going through the same motions. You're trying to sit down and make something good.
Yeah, just do it.
That's all we ever try to do, is just sit down and make something honest and something good, something that we can be proud of, and really something that makes us feel like the music that we love made us feel and continues to make us feel when we listen to it.
So we're all very passionate about music in general, obviously, the writing process, making something that's extremely personal to us. But we don't take it too seriously. We always like to have a joke. We like to have a laugh. We enjoy just like hanging out together, every bit as much as we do sitting down and hammering out songs, coming up with new ideas.
I think it's a similar thing. It's like, you know, we've learned a lot about each other. We've learned a lot about our friendships and the way that we interact with each other. But it's kind of hard to say, like, what that is exactly.
It's just experience, I guess. I don't know.
The more time that you spend with people, you know, you develop more of that second-hand nature of communication. And I think, hopefully, in the healthiest situation that you can, it streamlines the process so that you can communicate things easier. Sometimes you don't even have to say things. And you're on the same page with your friends, hopefully.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a big part of it, is just learning about each other's tendencies and everything else, and how to be more consistent and precise in the things that we do.
Mm-hmm. Or try to get better. And we all have very different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we fill in the gaps good for each other, because where one of us might lack in some area, the other one of us might have a strength. And I think we've always found that with this band, is that we tend to fill in the gaps pretty well creatively, and then, you know, we try our best not to tear each other's heads off after spending 1,000 hours in the same room with each other and writing songs.
A lot of the ideas, especially lately, within the last album cycle, it's definitely been Tyler and I starting ideas, and then, or one of us having an idea and us working together for a little while and having kind of like a bass and drum rhythm kind of thing down, or sometimes it's the full thing, sometimes it's just parts, and then you know, then we look for guitar to inspire different sections. Sometimes there's no like formula, you know, it's just however it comes about.
The guys definitely spend a lot of time on the instrumentals before I come into the process. I've learned to do it a little bit differently over the years, but I find that when I keep a little bit of distance from myself while they're working on these things, I can retain the excitement that I build up when I first hear the music. So I really like to kind of just stay on the periphery of it for a while and listen to what they're doing and kind of get a vibe for the music, all the while in my own creative writing space, coming up with themes and ideas like titles and things that are going to start me off. And it always kind of surprises me how whatever headspace I'm in when I come into the process and I sit down with the music and I just really let it take me wherever it's going to take me initially, it always seems to end up at least with one of the areas that I'm kind of exploring with my writing. So I usually like to attach a title to something initially, and that will just send me in a direction just kind of with the vibe and the theme of the song. And yeah, so I just kind of try to get in the mode and be as honest as I can. And, you know, I work a lot with Jesse on a lot of this stuff because I can have a tendency to get a little bit too much in my head. Sometimes I go out in left field a little bit, so he kind of reins me back in, and we have found a good process to work together. But I think that it ends up being something that, at least for me, I can say I have a very personal connection with all our songs, and it's just strange to me how they seem to work themselves out once we sit down and just make a point to put the time in, just day after day. You know, you pick your head up, and then all of a sudden you have this song that has this clear meaning and narrative almost. That's not too contrived from the beginning. We try not to do that, but this album, like the previous ones, it's just funny how it starts to reveal itself as we continue to work on it. And for me, that's one of the most exciting things, and why I love to write music with the guys. It's a process of discovery, which is really cool, and just love doing it.
There are a lot of ideas that happen while we're just all jamming. We'll come across a fun riff and, you know, log that to the side, come back to it later, maybe add some layers, create some connective tissue, and just build onto it. I'd say most of the songwriting is collaborative. But, I mean, everybody's got their own ideas a lot of the time. You know, we'll just be riding around listening to stuff, and something pops in your head, and, you know, you bring it to the table as soon as you can, throw it down.